Good afternoon, Mr. Gunraj. Thank you for taking the time to have this interview with us today. I know you're very busy, especially during this period. Let's get straight into it. Have you? I have been told as well, and I'm trying to be referencing too much, but I'm trying to understand the perspective of both. That the opposition appointed commissioners act in the interests of the people of Guyana, while those who sit on the commission in representation of the government or the PPP follow party lines all the time and wouldn't necessarily vote on what is important for Guyana or important for holding of free and fair elections, but only what is the will of your party. Is this so?
Again, Adina, I am constrained to reject that notion. I dare say that no position that I personally, and by perhaps with some extension to my colleague government commissioners, has ever been so aligned with a party line that it affects the national good. In no way, shape, or form. In no way, shape, or form. And I perhaps understand where this position may come from. At least two of the three commissioners representing the who are appointed by the president acting in his deliberate judgment, that is to say, or fondly referred to as government commissioners, are members of the leadership of the People's Progressive Party, myself and Commissioner Rose. So it is very easy to run away with that notion that we carry a party line. But in my 10 years at the commission, never have I been forced or even asked to take a position that is against the public interest. At the end of the day, my interest, and I believe the interest of the People's Progressive Party as a stakeholder, is in a fair process and is in a process that is acceptable and beneficial to all of the stakeholders that are participating in the process.
Okay. And the record would show this.
It will show that. But you know, I mean, I spoke about what my side's position is, if I can so describe it.
Yeah.
On the other side, you have persons who clearly have a political bias.
But you're not serving.
But because on the face of it, they appear untethered to any political party, then they may want to run away with the argument that we don't have or we do not carry a party line. Importantly, never have my colleagues on the other side brought a position or supported a position that did not coincide with that of, and I'll say it clearly, that of the PNC. You'd recall, and you know I'm very passionate about this publicly. You'd recall the entire 2020 saga. And, you know, I try my best to refrain from referencing that.
Yeah.
But those of us who forget the past are condemned to repeat it. In 2020, what was ongoing? You were there, right? We were all there. The public was there. The world was there. Thanks to the social and traditional media. You saw no condemnation, absolutely none, of the actions of in the first instance, Mingo. You saw no, and you could check.
No, but before you go further there, I understand and can appreciate that while they might not have been speaking publicly about it, in the commission or in deliberations of the commission during this period, they couldn't have made a representation to say, well, this is not right, what's happening.
Even that was not forthcoming.
Okay.
Even that was not forthcoming. The actions of Mingo, and I'm going to break it down into small parts.
Okay.
The actions of Mingo in the first instance were not condemned. Even in the early days of pronouncements by the Honorable Chief Justice, you'll recall an order was made on or around the 7th or 8th of March 2020. A further order was made on or around the 12th, I believe, or the 10th of 11th of March. And yet, on the 13th of March, when Mingo continued in the same vein, after being personally in the court, being admonished and demonstrated to the method and the procedure that he should adopt, in keeping with the law, continue to do the same thing. There was no condemnation. In light of successive judicial pronouncements, when Longfield then picked up the mantle and was discounting the votes of electors by the hundreds of thousands, you never saw any condemnation of this. In fact, I dare say, at one point in the procedure, there was a deliberate delay by members of the commission of that side in the proceedings to facilitate the filing of an action. In hindsight, when you looked at it, you could have seen clearly the delay that culminated in the filing of an action in the court.
So that was the last period. They were definitely acting along party lines.
Of course, because all of these shenanigans in benefiting one party. And then, at the end of all of this, when every trick was pulled out of that hat, or every rabbit was pulled out of that hat, when all else failed at the 11th hour, when nothing else could have logically come out of the proceedings except a declaration that Mohammed Irfan Ali was the president and the PPP Civic as a party should form the next government. What you had a presentation, a very long and lofty presentation from no less a person than Vincent Alexander, which advocated that instead of that declaration that I just spoke about, excuse me, he made a case for non-declaration. That the results of the election should not be declared, that the electoral process should be rendered null and void, and we should go to a new election. If that is not following a party line, because like I said, the only party that could have benefited at that time was the incumbent, the APNU plus AFC coalition, then tell me what any other purported or apparent line that myself and my commissioners will take pales in significance to that.
And you believe that there aren't instances where commissioners on the other side can point out clearly where those on your side acted with party lines against public good?
I would welcome any such instance being pointed out to me, and I am sure that I can address it as adequately as I believe I've addressed the last instance.
Thank you.